Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the chairman and ranking member for holding today's important hearing. I wanted three topics I really wanted to touch on today, one of which I added because of the enlightening conversation between Mr. Levine and the chairman, and that has to do with the resiliency of water infrastructure. My state of Connecticut was hit very hard with Superstorm Sandy. We expended considerable resources in rebuilding and learning about more resilient infrastructure, about how to absorb fast-flowing water, work done in part at the institution that Mr. Levine attended, where he was one of my husband's students at the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. And that does cost money. And my state spent that money to do so, and so did New York. And so I think in the interest of saving lives and saving dollars, it is incumbent on us to do that, because it's not only a misuse of dollars, but much more importantly, it's not using the best learning about how we save lives and save property going forward. So I would just say that I think we have to find a way to do that, and it would be wrong for the folks in Texas and in Florida and in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands not to take best practices forward, and we're just gonna have to figure out a way to do it. And we shouldn't lower standards and put people's lives at risk and their property. So I think that's not only being stewards of the federal tax dollars, but recognizing other states have figured out a way to do that and didn't get extra support. We did it because it's the right thing to do. The two topics I really wanted to touch on were about public drinking water and about brownfields. On public drinking water, my state is one of the many in the country that has found we have unacceptable lead levels in our schools, in condominiums, in apartment buildings, in state office buildings. As you may know, we found recently in the Cannon office building that we had unacceptable lead levels and had to shut down all of the water fountains there. So this is a problem we're going to need to address, and it costs real money. And with aging infrastructure, it has to happen. We saw it in Flint, we saw it in Toledo, and as a co-chair of the Corrosion Prevention Caucus, I would urge us to look at that, and I'll ask a couple of you specifically about that, because there just is too much at stake. We can't afford to poison our people, especially not our children, and too many of these in our schools, and we will never recoup their lost ability, and it's just wrong. We need to figure out how to do that. And the other is on brownfields, which is part of this portfolio as well. I want to thank the ranking member, Chairman Graves, who we've been working hard on a bill, have one that passed unanimously out of committee, and we're hoping to get it to the floor soon. But nearly a third of the projects don't get funded because EPA doesn't have sufficient funding. Two of those projects were in my district, and they're important projects. There are 533 that didn't make the cut last time, not because they didn't qualify, not because they weren't good projects, but because simply we didn't have enough money. So sometimes, unfortunately, it does take money. We're making some improvements, to Mr. Franklin's point and to Mayor Cooper's point about trying to do P3s, public-private partnerships, where appropriate. We've learned from practices working with the League of Cities and with the mayors to improve the bill, and we'd urge your support and try to get this through to the floor soon. But again, we would like to see more robust funding for EPA for these programs, and then we can leverage the private dollars. So maybe, Mr. Peterson, you talked a little bit about if you can opine both on brownfields with some additional funding, recognizing that leverages a lot. Every one of those dollars leverages a lot. And on lead, what you're seeing in our water systems on lead. Thanks very much.
Sure, absolutely. Good questions. Lead is a major challenge across the country. Fortunately, on the West Coast, we don't have as severe a lead problem because a lot of our pipelines are not lead-based pipes, but I think absolutely you're exactly right. We can't be having lead levels exceeding standards, especially in our schools. California has been very proactive in this. In fact, the legislature just passed a bill that actually increased the current federal standards for lead and copper testing, whereby community water systems would actually pay to do testing of schools, which is not currently a requirement. The other thing is corrosion control. It's very effective. It's cost effective. It does not require necessarily replacement of all the lead pipes, but if you can control corrosion and ensure that you're building that layer of deposit on the pipes and not leaching out lead. And with regard to the funding, I agree 100%. We need more robust funding. The funding can be leveraged at the local level. It should be. And then with regard to resiliency, in California, it's an issue that we're very aware of. We have situations where we face both drought emergencies and flood emergencies simultaneously. And so we need to be thinking of both, and we frequently focus on drought, but flood is also an issue that we need to be very aware of and prepare for. And we are doing that, though we need to do more.
I see my time has expired. Thank you. And I yield back.
Thank you, Ms.